very interactive lecture. So please give me as much feedback and interaction as you can, because it's as much your experience as it is what I'm going to talk about. Okay. So that's us recording now. Go ahead, Alana. Alana, you're breaking up unless it's me breaking up. Is it? Do you want to pop something in the chat? You maybe didn't realize you were on the call. That's fine. Okay, guys. So I'm going to share my screen now and just go through the lecture with you. So I have put this now on. This is now available on Canvas under this week's teaching course. Okay, so like Gary said, he's going to bring you in next week to go through more of the course details, and just to make you feel that you know, part of the university, and get to know each other as well. Is this that you haven't been in as a group yet, have you not? Have you been in face to face in the university?
Just one. The first session was face to face.
Just the first session. Okay, so the next time you go in, it'll be better, because at least you'll be able to sort of relate to what you're studying, and have chats and make friendship groups within this wee class. So that'll be nice to see. So today's session, and like Gary says, this hopefully won't last 3 hours, but I do rely on your input as well. So this is all about loneliness, social isolation, and older people. So like I said, this is something that's very close to my heart. You know, human aging, the aging process, health and illness. So we look at a few different things within this lecture, and it will just be, excuse me, it will just be a reminder for some of you. And you know, this is a wee bit like enhancing the revalidation process, where you have all the knowledge, and now with your experience and your years of developing that experience and the years of building your skills, you're going to be able to relate to these and just remind yourselves of, you know, what we should be doing and how we can enhance people's lives through implementing certain strategies, looking at the theories behind all these things, and actually putting the evidence into our practice, which is what we as nurses harp on about all the time. The things that we do need to be knowledgeable, they need to be based on evidence, and they need to be relevant and recent. Okay, so the learning outcomes of this session is to hopefully understand the effects of human aging. So we look at the effects of what makes us age. We look at some of the conditions and challenges associated with aging. And I have actually designed this lecture around your assignment to try to just guide you in a way that's going to help you structure your assignment and give you wee thoughts and feelings throughout this work. We look at the stages of aging, we look at health and well-being, and we look at the impact of staying active and socially engaged. So to understand the effects of human aging, we look at defining age. So I'll open that to the floor and see, we'll get a bit of debate going about what actually old age is. Demographics and life expectancy. We look at changes associated with aging. We look at theories of aging, and we look at quality of life. And I'll share with you some stories in relation to quality of life as I worked in the nursing home. Okay, so defining age is a big question. I get different answers depending on who I'm teaching for this question. When do we consider ourselves to be old? When does aging start? And what are our attributes towards age and the aging process? So first of all, what age is old? Over to you guys. Oh, I'm reading this in the comments here, okay. That's okay, Rosemary. Yep. So Philip and I have a 100th birthday happening today. Is it Philip or yourself is 100? So we'll have to pop out for a bit. Okay. That's understandable. Okay, so we've got some comments here. 80 years old? Yeah? Anybody else? What would you consider to be old? It has lowered. 80? 70, 75, 60. 60's old, 65. I'd love to know the age of the person. Lowered to 55. Okay. 75. Who said 55 is old? I'd love to know the age of the person who said 55 is old. I think it depends on what age we are. 65, 65 to 70. Okay, a range there. Old is a feeling. So individual to each person. Very good. I love that. I feel old. I feel old and I'm 32, says somebody. Excellent. Same. I don't think any certain age. I think the quality of life. Okay, so yeah. 90 years old as you feel. Yeah. 65 and over. Excellent. Okay. All right. So some varying answers there. I love that. You're only as old as you feel saying, which is great, and it's probably quite applicable to this lecture. I also love the one I'm 32 and I feel really old. So you must be a mum of 25 children. I can relate to that. Okay, so absolutely, it is a feeling. It is as somebody said there, you're as old as you feel. Now my daddy is, and you'll hear me relating to him a lot. He is 92, coming 93. My mum's 80, so she's 12 years younger than him. But daddy has always been very active. And we never really considered him as old at all. We still don't really. He's starting to slow down a wee bit now, and we're starting to see the aging process starting in him now. But I mean, he would be reading the newspaper. He reads the newspaper every single day, and he looks out for the deaths, as you do when you're 92. But he would look at, read out a death maybe, and he would say, "Oh, but that boy was really old," and he's maybe only 80. But Daddy doesn't see himself as 92. He doesn't consider himself to be old. And that's echoing what somebody's put there in the chat. You're only as old as you feel yourself. He would always say, "Oh, you're only as old as the woman you feel." So he always had a woman that was 12 years younger than him. So that's very important. It's very important to listen to people as well and to consider them. We can be very stereotypical, can't we? And I'm guilty of this as well. I remember being in the hospital one time and, an elderly man coming in to be cared for. And I, got down to his eye level, did all the communication that I was supposed to. And I reached down to him and said, "What's your name?" Okay. Me considering, I was thinking, oh, this man's maybe, hearing impairment. And he just looked at me and said, "Not all old people are deaf." And it just hit me like a plank. And I thought, oh, I've done it. I'm the stereotypical nurse. So it just made me think sometimes we need that wee reminder that you need to be considerate of others and you can't be so stereotypical. So it's very important to be able to reflect and be able to be critical on your practice as well. So I was able to take a step back and say, "Here, Rosie, that's not appropriate. You need to change your practice here." Okay, so what are the attributes towards age and the aging process then? What makes us? So you're all telling me there that there's no true definition of age. I feel it is all down to how society portray it. Very good. Initially look at the outside of the person and do not consider the person right. Excellent. So what is society telling us? just pop your mics off and chat away, guys. I'm happy with that. Just shout out. What do society consider to be old, or what's society telling us about old age?
There's nothing to look forward to.
Excellent, yeah. Kind of, yeah, and we don't link very well between generations. Sure, we don't. We're not really good at what are we like in this country versus other countries? Is there anybody from any other countries here that have noticed a notable difference in the way we treat our older people in this country?
Yes.
Good, thank you. Who's speaking?
Hi, I'm Nicelle.
Hey, Sel, how are you? Would you share that view with us? Where is your original?
I'm from
Pardon?
the Philippines. From
Philippines?
the Philippines, yes.
Brilliant.
And aging in our country means it's expensive, getting
Good.
more expensive,
Uh-huh.
healthcare and all.
Okay. But what happens to your older people in your country?
Because we don't have like the setup of nursing home, so it
Good.
differs from place to place. So we take care of our old like in our own home, and family next of kin
Yes.
do the care.
I used to work with nurses from the Philippines, and that was very much what they couldn't believe how many older people were in nursing homes and in hospitals. Would that be right?
Yes.
Yeah, and your culture would be to treat your older people with respect and dignity and keep them at home.
Yes.
Yes, the money thing is probably an element as well. However, I would guess that it's more a respect for your elders type
Yes, it's
culture.
also
Yeah.
more of paying it for, I mean, giving it back to them because they took
Yeah.
care of us. So there is that culture.
Yes, yeah, that's what the feedback was. Yeah, very good. So already we're seeing a difference between different countries. What are our attitudes towards older people here? There's adverts to show how our mobility is affected. There's nothing really positive in our advertisements about older age, the elderly age population, and how we should treat them. So the National Service Framework, NSF, for older people in 2005 placed older people within three groupings. Those entering old age, so this was defined as such by the cessation of paid employment. They are generally active and can be as young as 50. Okay, talk to me about retirement. What age do we retire at?
65.
Good. At the minute it's 65. Did you hear the news last week about them trying to up the age to 68, is it? How would you feel about that?
It's not giving you much time to enjoy, you're like, if you're somebody who takes disease and stuff and you've saved your pensions for to spend some time with your husband and your family, and
Yeah,
you mightn't get that time the more that there is that.
absolutely. It's just horrendous. You've
Yeah.
worked for a long time, and yeah, you have that option there of retiring when you're 50, but how many people have that option? Most of us will work on until the last day of our retirement age because we need to secure our pensions. Now I remember my sister, she has just retired and she's 50, is she about 53 or 4 maybe? But I remember her from she was 20 talking about her pension and how she wanted to pay into her pension so that she could retire early. And like we were all rolling our eyes at the time, but now that time has come and she's able to retire early. That comes with its challenges as well, which we'll discuss later. But yeah, not everyone will have that option. But that's what we would call entering old age. So sort of from the age of retirement. And it kind of gives a bit of a stigma towards that too, doesn't it? A bit of a line, and that was your young working life, and now you're entering this old age chapter, which is I don't know, it can be both positive and negative. So we look at that. Those in the transitional phase who are between independent life and vulnerability and dependence. So I would probably say, you know, I watched my daddy going through this phase, you know, where he was completely independent to now he's starting to need a wee bit of help. You know, I watched my mother-in-law going through this phase. Definitely, she had arthritis, and in the end she was bound to a wheelchair. But she was still very much active in her own mind and very much physically active as well. She was a very capable woman, strong all her life. And she really resented maybe me needing to help her to the toilet or things like that. It was just a complete invasion of her privacy and her dignity as well. So I think we can all relate to this, and I think we can all see people in our own minds. Whenever we go through these phases, you know, you're looking at somebody and thinking, yeah, they're at that phase in their life. And then we move on to those who are frail due to health problems. So in the later ages of life, then where you're so frail from the health problems that you have, that you're no longer able to live independently, and that can be very difficult for people. So the demographics and life expectancy, so statistics about the population issues we'll have a look at. Older population is aging globally. Yeah, we are getting older. So, question, if we are getting older as a population, why should we not work longer?
It might depend on what your job is, if it's very physical.
That's a really good point. Yes, I was thinking that the other day whenever they were talking, I was actually watching Loose Women, right? And there were 4 women on the panel or whatever it is. I'm sure some of you have seen it. And they were talking about, oh no, I want to work up until I'm 80 and I love doing this job. And I was just thinking, you're sitting behind a desk having a chat. You know, you are not working in A&E, or you're not working in ICU. You're certainly not working in a nursing home. And it would be quite easy for me to sit there and have a wee chat as my full-time job till I'm 80. So I had a bit of a giggle at that and thought, yeah, they're not physically doing a big lot, you know, so they may be able to work till they're older.
And it's, you know, as you get older too, and the cost of living, it's expected that you babysit your grandchildren to let your children make a living.
Is it expected? I have signed out of that agreement.
Yeah. I think with the prices of, you know,
Yeah, I know
you have a
that.
couple
I
of
know,
children
and
that you
you're
need
absolutely
babysit.
right. Yeah, it is expected, and it's expected of your you know, from your children. Now I've told all my kids that I won't be doing the granny thing, but I'm sure I will because of that. It's expected, and because of the guilt. Aren't we all always feel guilty as mothers? That you should be helping out more. So with that then comes, okay, I need to give up a couple of days of my job, doesn't it? I have a friend who retired a few years ago there, and that's all she's doing now is babysitting her grandchildren. She loves it, but yeah, she doesn't know how she ever find time to work because she's just doing this. She's taking on this new role. So the growth in the proportion of older people, definitely we are living longer and we are living healthier lives, as in we have more access to services, we have more medication options now, and we are actually growing as an older population. So by 2150, 1 in 3 people will be 60 years or over. So some of you did write in the chat that you do consider about the age of 60 to be old. So by this year, 2150, 1 in 3 people will be over the age of 60. Now, why am I highlighting that to you guys? And why do we as nurses need to know this information? Well, tell me this, why do the, sorry, go ahead.
As the population gets older, we're going to have to give better care to the older people, obviously, as well, and more specific care to their needs.
Perfect. In a nutshell, absolutely. So we need to know how to look after these people. We need to make sure that we have the services available to them. So that's why the government and the Public Health Agency need to have this information as a projection. So that's what is it now? So that's 120 years, say. We need to be able to look at that information. The government need to be able to look at that information and say, right, we need to, what am I saying, 150 years, 30 years? We need to be able to provide these people with proper care, proper resources, proper services. We need to maybe build more nursing homes, more diabetic clinics, who at the age of 60, what are people suffering from? And we need to maybe put in place funding to make sure that those needs are being met. So Europe will become the oldest region of the world over the next 25 years. So over the next 25 years, we are going to be the oldest region in the world. So we need to have this information and we need to deal with it. So the theories of aging then, these are the different theories of aging. So we have activity, we have disengagement, we have continuity, and we have growth and maturation. So the activity theory discusses the successful aging occurs among individuals who maintain a high level of activity involvement. Can anyone give me a little bit of input? Do you agree with that? Who agrees with that statement?
I don't agree with that. I think some people who are involved in high levels of activity kind of can age in certain ways quicker, just with joint problems and things like that. So it's probably holistically no, I don't agree.
Okay, good, yeah. So you're talking about maybe extensive activities like running or more active.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And you do hear stories about maybe pressure on your heart or whatever, don't you? And that all comes with really high active engagement with activities at that age group. Excellent. Yeah, that's a really good counter argument for that one. Brilliant. Anybody else want to give?
If you have a high level of activity and you become unwell, your body's too tired to fight it.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's your immunity as well, and your immune system and your all your aches and pains, isn't it, at that age? Good. Anybody agree with it?
Yes, I agree with it.
Okay, can you elaborate?
Because often, just from experience and working in the nursing home, you usually notice that when residents go off their feet, that's when they tend to get a lot of like infections or illnesses, or their general health would tend to decline.
Excellent. Okay, so there's two very different ways of looking at this, and you can look at high level of activity being too much of a strain on a person's body. So it's finding that happy medium, isn't it? And especially whenever we're looking at people in nursing homes or older people in care settings, there needs to be some sort of activity involvement so that these people can keep active and, as you say, keep the blood flowing, keep their health good, and try to age successfully, as in, maintain their muscle mass, and maintain activity like, social engagement, making sure that They're still making friends and chatting, and it's all about their well-being. Excellent, good job. So you've got disengagement as well. Okay, so the disengagement theory, or withdrawal from social systems, can help people to prepare for death. Okay, so that's a positive way of looking at it. Okay, so let's talk about disengagement. So disengagement meaning people have now grown older and they have felt, right, I can't be bothered going out anymore. I can't be bothered going to meet friends, and I'm starting to disengage from society. Anybody got any views on that? What about disengagement due to COVID? Has anybody noticed the effects of the disengagement of older people following the COVID pandemic?
I think it was forced disengagement, and then people are reluctant then to return to any kind of normality.
Perfect. And again, I'm harping back to mommy and daddy, but we had them locked up for 2 years basically. And we went to the window to visit them. We waved through the window. Now, before this, and although daddy was starting to get older and less able to maybe drive to places, that was when his driving stopped actually at the beginning of COVID, because he had nowhere to go. He didn't have to drive, and then it declined. I do feel that he declined, his health declined since COVID. And I do blame this disengagement thing. Now, prior to the COVID thing, him and mommy, their social life was playing cards, and they would have gone out 3 or 4 nights a week to go to a hall and play cards from whatever 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock at night, and that was every week from I was tiny. And that was their social life. They didn't drink or they didn't go out to pubs, but that was their wee thing, that they just went out and played these cards. But since the COVID thing, that all stopped. Everything stopped, and they just stayed in their own wee bubble. And definitely, I feel that they were disengaged, forced to disengage from society. And I do believe that that was the start of the decline in my dad's mental health. Okay, good. Now, this is an interesting counter argument then. Is it disengagement, or are we actually starting to prepare ourselves to leave this world? Are we trying to withdraw from society so that we're lonely anyway? We're on our own. We're not going to hurt anybody's feelings if we die. So are we actually starting to prepare for our own death? A bit grim, isn't it? But that's the reality. That's sometimes what we sort of, the process in which we go through. Any views on that?
Well, I kind of disagree with that, because you can die at any point.
Yeah. Absolutely, good. Well, you can, but are you prepared to? And also, if you are in your social circles, if you feel that you're getting older, is it like is it a method of people to try to get disengaged from those social systems, so that when they do go, they're not really going to be missed? That's sort of what this disengagement is saying.
It kind of depends what person you are, like what kind of person you are, if you're private or if you're out and about like that, because I would find that maybe my granda would kind of have been a bit disengaged, whereas my granny, she's never in the house, she's always out and about. So
good, that's a good scenario. Yeah, very good. And are they both still here?
Yeah, they are.
Excellent. Okay, so that's a really good example in the two different types of people. So you're absolutely right. And some people may engage with this process a lot differently. And treated a lot differently. It's a wee bit like bereavement, isn't it? I often think what's going to happen, and it will happen. I know my mummy and daddy's never going to die, but someday, someday they will. But I often think, what's one going to do without the other? Because they've been together for 60 years, every day. So, if one goes, is the other one gonna withdraw from society? Okay. And I'm sure you've all seen that within your own roles. If you're working with older people, you've definitely seen the impact that a spouse's death has had on another person. Have you?
Nearly have to learn a new way of living.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. They have to now start to look after themselves instead of maybe, it used to be in older days, and it still is, my daddy couldn't make a bed. Mommy does everything for him, but at the same time, daddy used to do the driving. So if one went, it would just be very difficult. And yeah, you're right, they would have to learn new things and different ways of coping. Good.
Hi, Rosie, can you hear me?
Yes, of course.
Hi, Rosie, Jared McVeigh. Rosie, as a mental health nurse who spent approximately 18 months on an acute ward for over 65s, this engagement would have been quite a regular admission for us.
Good, yes.
Quite a regular admission, and you can see the deterioration in the mental state, the depression and the mood, and inextricably linked with the physical well-being. So
Brilliant.
it's quite a good one.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, well, you would have seen that firsthand then, Jared. You would have seen people coming in, maybe experiencing depression or anxiety or just that withdrawal from everything, really, from life, isn't it? You get
complete withdrawal, Rosie.
Good.
Complete.
And then it impacted on their physical health as well. So that's sort of where we cross our fields, don't we? We try to work together.
Completely, because that vulnerable person, had given up on the functional activities by and large. Didn't want to get out of bed. Had a lot of encouragement, a lot of prompting. So everything went quite acutely. As such, their reason for admission to an acute ward. Very sad.
Well, brilliant. Well, that's firsthand. That's out there. That's you working on the front line. Bringing the theory to life, isn't it? And it's you're seeing it. You're seeing faces as I'm talking, I'm sure. And it is really, really sad. And it's sad when people take on that stage of their life where they just think there's no point. I'm going to die anyway.
Oh, no.
So what's the point in going out and making new friends or doing stuff? Or yeah, it is really, really sad. Okay, thanks, Jared, for that. Yeah, excellent. So what about this continuity then? Continuity assumes that as individuals age, there's an increasing consistency of that personality. So that's a debatable one as well. So being able to continue our own personality and our own interests and likes is maybe very difficult to do. And as Jared said there, people start to get disengaged. Why do they become disengaged? Maybe they're not able to go to the gym anymore, or maybe they're not able to go to work anymore even. If they've retired, they're maybe not able to link in with that friend group anymore. Have we any views on that one?
Sorry, Rosie, was that one to me there?
No, just anybody. Yeah, open to the floor. Go ahead. You take it if you want.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch you there, Rosie. I have a dog barking in the background.
You're grand.
Apologies.
It'll make my class bigger. You're fine. No, we're just saying. So this continuity theory assumes that individuals will continue with the personality that they've always had. And I would tend to disagree with that, where people at this age group may not be fit or able or even linked in with their past lives anymore, or their friend groups, and it's just not possible to be able to do that. You know, some people love going to the gym every day. Older age, you may not be fit to. So it's just making those adjustments as well and trying to make those changes. So what about growth and maturation then? So that's all about human development is based on having our needs met. So we look back at the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And if you remember that Maslow's hierarchy is a wee bit like, you know, it's kind of like a triangle, like a pyramid. And at the bottom we have all food and hygiene and water, just the basic things that we need to live. And unless we are getting those things and those needs met, and this is very apparent at the minute, folks, when we are faced with this cost of living crisis, and people are actually having to you know, make life-changing decisions whether they should eat or heat their home. And it's really, that's really sad, because they are not going to be able to get past that bottom level of needs to move on and progress if they're not having those needs met. If they're not getting their nutrition, they're not going to be healthy. This next line is not going to be met. Security. Do they still have their home? Are they facing maybe eviction because they can't pay for their bills? All those needs all add up. You can't head up that pyramid until those basic needs are met, and it's our job to find out whether they are or not. I'm just going to read through these little comments in the chat, just to see if I've missed anything here at this stage, folks. COVID has made us disengage and withdraw from society. Absolutely. Disengagement isn't always a permanent thing. Excellent. Who said that? Carol, brilliant. So yeah, I would totally agree with that. So at some stages of our lives, and maybe George, you've seen this as well, well, hopefully you've rehabilitated some of these people as well and got them back into society and got them engaging again. So that would hopefully prove that it isn't always a permanent thing, and that with our help and support, we are able to guide them and try to get them back into society and adapt to their new lifestyle and their new stage of life.
Yeah, totally, Rosie. That's our role as nurses, really, isn't it?
Brilliant, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so each day that they're approaching death, it's right. Older people are aware that each day they are approaching death at some time soon. Good. The adoption
Don't
of
do that.
adoption to
Did you not heard your name cry?
growing
Don't do it
old
again. I'm not
affects
sure.
mental well-being. This can lead to lower mood. I'll just pop. There's so many on. It's okay. Of dogs and children and everything on this call today. It's great. So this can lower mood and lower morale. Excellent. Yeah, perfect. So lots of good discussion there, folks. Okay, so bring this to your, whenever you're talking about or thinking about your assignments and your work, use all these examples and get the input from others. So the activity theory is based on, you know, the more active older adults engage in, the greater the life satisfaction. So really, it's about keeping active. I mean, I've just joined a wee country club, and well, I joined it to go to the yoga. And I'm really enjoying it. But there's a lady in the yoga class, and she's about, I would say she's at least 77. And I mean, she's bending and turning and stretching, and she's just fantastic, and she's just so active. And it's just really inspirational, as in, you know, you can do things when you're older. We have this self-concept is related to roles. Previous roles must be replaced, sorry, with new ones, and remain active. So again, that's our job. It's our job to assess our service users, to see what they were used to beforehand, and to see what we could maybe replace those different things with. Or somebody mentioned there about minding your grandchildren. You know, when you retire, So you've worked all your life, then you retire, and then you take on this new role as a carer for your children's children or whatever. But that's you taking on a role and replacing it with a new role. And it's still keeping you active. It's keeping you engaged in society. I'm telling you about my sister that retired early there. We were laughing. She was actually getting quite anxious coming up to her retirement. She says, Rosie, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. And I'll tell you why, because she's worked every day since she was 17 years of age and never took one day off sick. She was so motivated to her job. She actually worked for the Food Standards Agency. And she loved her job. She would never take a day off sick or anything. And she was getting quite anxious on the run up to her retirement. So she didn't retire at all. Well, she did retire from that job, but she took on another role. She went to work for a charity, Trócaire charity, and I don't think she would have retired very well. So she's as busy as ever she was. Well, she's doing 3 days a week for this charity and loves it. But that's just an example of how just retirement wasn't for her. She wanted to retire early, but she changed her role just so that she could be kept active. Older adults deny the existence of old age, so they fight the aging process. I was reading through this yesterday and thought I should put up a couple of photos of some celebs. Can you think of any celebs who are fighting the aging process?
Madonna.
Excellent. I didn't think of her. Forgot about her.
We recently had a nurse only retire in their 70s. She
Who
was
is
great.
it?
One of our
You-
nurses only retired recently and in their 70s in the nursing home. She was doing 1 day a week, but her role has now changed to like volunteering and grandchildren and things like that, obviously now too. But she's great.
Wow. Yeah, there's a nurse in our nursing home, and she actually works in the nursing home to get a break from. She has her husband actually. I worked with him. He was a consultant in the city hospital, and he had a stroke, and he's in a wheelchair, and still he can communicate, but he has very limited mobility, and she cares for him 24/7. But she still works. She works in the nursing home, but it's only to get a break from being in the house. It's like women getting out from the kids. But she enjoys the crack, and she could be 80. She could be nearly 80, and she worked the whole way through COVID and everything. So, Catherine, can you imagine yourself then working till you're what was it, 77?
I don't know. I'm 32 now, so a long way to go.
As you said, you were feeling old earlier on.
No, that wasn't me, but I agree sometimes with them after the 12-hour shifts.
Well, you maybe be in my class when you're 80, and I'll be near retirement then. Brilliant. So yeah, it's all about this fighting the aging process. I was thinking of Kenny Rogers. Has anybody ever seen him lately? He's horrendous looking. Or Carol Vorderman. She's amazing looking, but she looks like a doll. And yeah, Madonna, I haven't seen her in a while now. Very good. So there are people who are trying to fight the aging process. So I would definitely say, yeah, my dad, definitely. If you ask him now if he feels old, well, he is starting to feel a wee bit old. Actually, he's starting to get a bit tearful about it. But that's him. He's sort of sitting around thinking, right, it's kind of my turn next, which is really sad. So the meaning of activity then, everyone looks for the meaning of life. So this is what we're talking about. There's a lot of chat in the group, in the chat box there about you know, the value of life, the quality of life. We hear that all the time in nursing homes, especially, don't we? I said I would share with you an example of that. I remember being in the nursing home one night and a lady took very ill. She was living with dementia, and she took what I queried was she was going into heart failure. So I rang the out of hours doctors, and they rang back, and they asked me, okay, they said, should we send an ambulance? And I said, yes. And they said, no, I mean, but what's her quality of life like? And depending on what I answered that question was depending on whether that woman got an ambulance or not. And I just thought, that's not going to be my decision to make. This woman was quite happy. She came down every morning singing and dancing and jigging about with her wee tap feet. And she was quite happy. Me looking at her, it wasn't a great quality of life, but in her own world, she was fine. So the expectation for me to answer that question, I felt was a bit out of my remit. Has anybody else experienced that? Hopefully not.
I think with COVID, we had to make decisions on like whether, well, not even with COVID, even now, you still have to make decisions on whether to send people to hospital or things like that all the time now as well. I suppose that's part of the advanced care plan as well, and discussions with family about, you know, the way forward and what they want to do.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? Because there is a fine line between who actually makes that decision and who can actually judge whether your life is worth saving or not, isn't it? I just find that a bit. I just that kind of got to my heartstrings a bit. And I thought, is this all about waiting times and hospitalization, hospital beds, and money at the end of the day? So yeah, we can only be the nurses who we want to be, and that was not my decision to make. So obviously, to me, her quality of life was fine because she was happy. So thankfully they did take that on board and send an ambulance. And she was rehabilitated and back home, and she was fine. Able to sing and dance the next few days later, so she was grand. But yeah, it's just something that we need to be mindful of. So looking at the meaning of life is very individual to each person. Activities that people do are made meaningful based upon their values and cultural backgrounds. That's something we need to be very mindful of as well, especially in this country, especially in the Northern Ireland. It's very important, and regardless of your own regardless of your own cultural background, you need to be able to appreciate the beliefs and backgrounds and culture of other people. And especially now with other nationalities coming to live in this country, we're not going to know the practice of every single religion or culture. But, and what I always tell my students, if you're looking after somebody from a certain culture or from a certain country, you need to find out what they believe in. You need to find out what their culture is, what their beliefs are, what their religious background is, and even what their practice is in relation to clothes, food. My parents are very much, it's a very old thing, but they ate fish on a Friday. So if I went into a nursing home one day and they were being fed steak on a Friday, I wouldn't be happy. Yes, I could possibly be one of those annoying relatives. But that's up to the assessment of your patient. That's up to your that's up to you to find out exactly how your person wants to live. The environment and the context in which the activity takes place also adds meaning to the activity in question. So it's very important not just to do an activity, but to carry out an activity that's relevant to the person and to the place that you're in. We used to have an activities coordinator in my old nursing home, and she used to do a night shift as a care worker, and then in the morning she would have maybe stayed on to do her activities. Now, some activities she did, she took some of the residents for a shower. Now, to me, that's their own basic right, and that wouldn't be classed as an activity. So it's very important to use the proper methods and the proper systems and the proper resources and environment that we have in order to create a meaningful activity. So the meaning of an activity then, outcomes of engaging in activity also impact the meaning. For example, the satisfaction of the participant. So how satisfied are the participants in within the activity group? So an example could be that, you know, it's very difficult to suit everybody when you're creating an activity, isn't it? And I'm sure you can all relate to this. You've got time restraints, you've got resources to consider, and not everybody's going to want to get involved. But when they do, and if they do, there is increased self-esteem within that person. They do feel that they're part of something, and they do feel satisfied. Is it just a matter of being pragmatic, just getting the job done? Or is it maybe altruistic, meaning it's a selfless and it's for the good of other people? So what is the activity actually? What is the purpose of the activity? What are you hoping to achieve from the activity? And who's going to get involved? So these are all theories behind why we do what we do. And you're all doing it. I know you are. You're all doing it within your activities, within your practice. And it's just getting that theory behind it to make sure that it's all aligning with your evidence-based practice. So the well-adjusted older adult takes on a variety of productive roles through activities in voluntary work such as churches or leisure organisations. So you will find that a lot, especially with people who are retired. They will take on some voluntary work or some work that's going to keep them active, which is great. The more active, the greater life satisfaction, positive self-concept and adjustment in later life. And, you know, we've already discussed that. That's what this is all about. It's adjusting to our new stage of life, making those adjustments so that we don't become disengaged with society. So I do have here in groups, but for some reason, I don't think I'm able to put you guys in groups. Let me just check a second, because this would be really good if I could. And I'm nearly sure I can't, because I'm going to allow your cameras, because I like seeing cameras, if you don't mind. You can pop on your cameras if you like. Let me just check if I can do. For some reason, I don't think it allows me to do that. Do group sharing. It's definitely not. Sometimes when other people organise your meeting, it doesn't allow you to. That's fine. Okay, so we'll just chat between ourselves then. Just reading, I'm just reading some of the comments here. Owing to this, the decision-making process of family decide to not send them to hospital, and sometimes this leads to health decline and result in death. Yeah, that's a really good point, Catherine, what you've put in the chat there. If you don't mind, I'll read it out. I have found that families and carers have lost faith in their loved ones going to hospital, as there is no capacity in the acute settings. Okay, so owing to this, the decision-making process of the family decide not to, yet can lead to ill health or even death, which is really, really relevant at the moment, isn't it? Do you feel that people aren't, they're reluctant to send their loved ones to hospital because of the waiting times, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe they're afraid of their loved ones sitting lying in the corridor maybe days and days, and they don't want their family member to go through that, you know, or go through. I find that, as I said, very, very difficult to apprehend, because sometimes it's us as nurses, we try to want to keep the elderly living longer.
Yeah.
Because that's what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find that difficult.
Try to encourage them to get that help and support. Yeah, that's a good point. And yeah, it's very, especially in the older generations, you know, where they think, oh, they're annoying people or they don't need. We had residents wait over 8 hours in the back of an ambulance. Yeah, and you know that's you kind of as nurses in a nursing home, you have that ethical dilemma as well, don't you? You're thinking, should we leave them in an ambulance for 8 hours? We know that they're going to be like, we know that they're going to be sitting waiting on a bed or waiting to get in. Okay, good.
Just COVID as well, and infection, all those attributes, you know, they think about as well. They don't want their family going into it, and then maybe feel it's sad. And then you go into falls where we might have residents that have to lie for 8 hours, numerous hours before an ambulance can come and collect them. There's loads of things.
Excellent, yeah. And do you think the
struggle? Yeah.
Do you think the enhanced care at home team is helping?
I think they're brilliant. I
yeah,
think it's
so do
I admire them. I think they're fantastic, but it's not their fault. It's just because of the resources. They only maybe have say 20 capacity or how many they can take on at that particular time. And especially over the Christmas period and the winter crisis, I found that was very, very much so that I had very ill patients who family didn't want them to go to hospital admission. However, they ended up that they couldn't get into the acute home care team. And that's not the acute home care team's fault. It's because of the resources. And you sometimes after maybe they do pass away, you think, could they have lived a wee bit longer if it had been there, the resources had been there? But
yeah, I think you're right. I think they're excellent.
We have no control over that.
I know that. And neither do they. They don't
of
probably
course
either.
They don't.
It's coming from a control centre or whatever. But hopefully the health service will be able to see the work that they're doing and be able to put in place more, more teams that can.
Most families understand that. Most families do understand that. They do understand that. So
yeah. No, I think they're excellent, and even the ability to administer IV antibiotics in nursing homes, I think that's brilliant.
Hopefully one day we might be able to do that. We might be able to be qualified to do that. Who knows?
Yeah, why do we not? I've always asked that question. Why are we not? We're all nurses. We should be able to do that.
I think that would take the pressure off the acute home care team if we could do that sort of thing, where they couldn't take somebody within our nursing home and we could do it.
Yeah. I wonder, is that in the pipeline? Are we trying to train our nurses up? You see, now
this course might have something to do with that, maybe. Who knows?
Good.
I think a lot of it comes down to you do get some of the courses, but it's getting the competencies is the big problem in the nursing homes.
Yes, absolutely.
And then you keep yourself right and make sure you're doing what you should. You need to have those competencies.
Absolutely, yeah. You see, the nursing programme has changed now that the IV administration of drugs is all included in that, so you don't need the extra one after you qualify, which is hopefully going to be a positive thing.
And hopefully too, you're going to have more people that needs the IVs that you're able to do, to keep your practice going, that it's not just once every 6 months or something,
Yeah, that would be good. And also you're keeping them out of hospital, aren't you? You're keeping your
in their own environment with people that
vulnerable. Yeah, absolutely. And trying to protect them with their conditions, possibly dementia or whatever, and definitely trying to reduce the anxiety. Good.
That was the objective of bringing the acute home care team in. However, they've forgotten about the extra amount of elderly people we have, and they're not falling in line with the resources. They need to make it much more to adapt to the fact that we have so many elderly within our community. And that's just so prevalent now. That's why they can't cope.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of comments coming through here on the chat actually about families being reluctant to send their loved ones to hospital. And I can see here the passion that you guys have and the care dilemmas that you're experiencing out there. We want to treat our older people, and we want them to, we're here to preserve their lives. We're not here to create any sort of deterioration, and we're here to treat them. So yeah, that must be very frustrating for you and very ethically quite difficult to deal with. Okay, thank you. Excellent feedback. So Right, we've discussed it. Well, I was wanting you to discuss, but we can just have a wee class discussion on this. So sharing your own experiences of activities you are currently engaging in. So this is you personally, okay? What is important to you, and how do you expect these needs to be met in the later stages of your life? So I'm putting you in the big old armchair in your residence place. Okay, so if you were in a nursing home, what is important to you? And I've got my answer. So share some of your views. What's important to you in your lives at the moment? What would you want from your care in a care setting?
Getting my hair done every week.
Brilliant. Love it. Same here.
Being treated
Well, I
as
don't know
an,
about every week. I can stretch for every few weeks.
being treated as an individual, person centered to that person.
Good. In what way? What would you?
Well, I could be somebody different than the person beside me. You know, treating me for what I want. You know what I would like.
Okay, and what would you like if I was looking after you and I said, right, what do you want from your care? What would it be?
Chat time. You know what I mean? I like to talk. So
good.
Just treating me as an individual and building trust, rapport, all that. Good approach. Brilliant approach. Treating the person as an individual. Some people forget about that person's lived a long life, has either been a mother or a father or a worker, and forget, but look at the person there and forget that they did have a life. Probably much harder than the last generation, would have been much tougher. Forget about that. They just treat the person that they see and forget about the individual person.
Isn't it so nice actually getting the time to sit and talk to somebody?
But that doesn't hear reality, I know that.
I know it doesn't. But sometimes it could happen on a toilet seat, or when you're tucking them into bed, or you know, when you're washing them or something like that, you know, when you're doing other things. But I love hearing their stories, and every time they tell me their stories, it always surprises me. I know it shouldn't, but you just think, oh, wow, did you do all that? I remember we used to put a man to bed. Now he was in middle sort of stage dementia, and he used to wake up talking in the middle. He used to wake up in the middle of the night wanting to get up out of bed, and I would have said, "Now what's wrong? Where do you want to go?" "Well, I have my flight to get." And I said, "All right, where are you going?" "Oh, I have to go and represent Queen's in London or whatever." So he was the librarian of Queen's. So it just amazes you every time. There was another man I took to the toilet one time, and I got chatting to him about something. I don't know what the subject was, but he said, "Sure, I used to be an engineer in the army," and we started talking about that, and it was just amazing the countries that he'd been to, and sometimes you're absolutely right, you forget about that. The grey hair and the wrinkles, you think this person maybe, you just forget sometimes that they have had such an extensive life and their wealth of experience, and the opportunities that they've had. It's just lovely to hear. I love it, but we don't get the time. Sure, we don't. I'll read some of the comments here. Keep going, talk away.
I think in an ideal world, maybe in the future sometime, to be able to socialise and not just sit there and wait to your ultimate, your waiting room of dying, to go into a home and be cared for and be able to socialise and have those wee parties and, all those activities. And I think that's sort of an ideal.
I love party night in a nursing home. Is there anybody here from the nursing home that has the bar in it? Where's it?
No, I was in that at home one time. It's up by
Hi, sorry. Yeah, my nursing home has a bar, has a pub.
I'll come and work there.
I'm here actually. I can give you a tour. I can give you a tour. I'm here actually.
Oh, go on. Take us to your bar. Is there anybody in it at the moment?
I do not think so. I couldn't see it directly, but it's next door. So
right, tell me how that works then. Is it come and go, or is it prescribed? Are they allowed to drink? What way does it work?
So what we have in our bar are non-alcoholic versions of the drinks.
Excellent.
If they want to bring their own drink, I believe they can, but that has to go through the nurses.
Yeah, of course.
Liquid, like IDDSI thickeners has to be followed as well, and things like that.
Brilliant.
And then we have to run through with the doctors if medication wise, alcohol wise, and things like that. So they're still safeguarding before alcohol is served. But mostly we have non-alcoholic.
I love it. Do you not love that idea? I just think that's brilliant. I read about it one time and I thought, wow, every nursing home should have a bar class.
It is.
Some people talking here, right? Take me out on a Friday night with a movie and a drink. Yep, I'm with you. Just someone taking time to engage with me, listen to music. Yeah, I love music. And be able to eat the foods I enjoy. Yeah, instead of mashed potatoes and mushy peas. I would like to see that actually. Yeah, because food's a big thing, isn't it? And just assuming that people will eat stew for their dinner, or we do make these assumptions and we don't actually ask people, oh, would you like a Chinese? This may change in the next few years in nursing homes actually, because your blander foods would be probably more relevant to the older population now. But I mean, do you guys, is that what you guys would want to be fed in another 20 years? I'm not sure. So it's something that maybe needs to be reviewed too. Good.
Some of our newer residents are looking to watch Netflix and YouTube
brilliant.
for like
Love
church
it.
and mass or whatever as well. Some of the newest residents we've got have come in looking at, so it's putting that in place as well.
Class. I keep my kids going all the time. I'm like, you're going to be sitting in the nursing home and you'll be like Snapchatting and taking your selfies and posting them to your older friends.
It's easy done. It's only a matter, like the families usually provide an iPad or something for them, so it's not too hard to do. I sat with somebody giving them a cup of tea and put mass on for them yesterday or on Sunday, so they really enjoyed it. It's just making them wee changes.
Brilliant. What did you put on for the mass?
Yeah, live mass for knock or something on Sunday, and we just had a cup of tea.
And you know what? And you're just saying, it's so easy for you to do, but you see what it meant to that person.
Yeah, and like
it's just priceless.
I was saying to some of the care staff, because that wee lady hadn't drank that well or whatever that day, so it was just making her. She liked a cup of tea with sugar in it. Sitting with her for 5 minutes and putting mass on it distracted her as well, but she drank away at it.
Oh, love it. Yeah, those wee things are class. I remember going into the city hospital one night to do a night duty, and there was a lady who had been in for about probably 5 weeks with us, getting things sorted out. And I went in this evening and she was really down. She was really, I could see, the way you just know from them, you just can see it in their eyes. And she was really, really down. And I sat with her just before my medicine round because I hadn't time to, because I needed to get my medicines out. But I could see that she was really annoyed. So I sat with her anyway. She's like, what's up? What's going on? Are you fed up in here, or what's going on? And she says, this is the first time in 60 years that I have missed the 12th of July parades. And I said, right, okay. So I put her in a wheelchair and put a big blanket around her, and I pushed her to the best view in the city hospital, pushed her over to the window. Now, if you can imagine the city tower block, we were 10 floors up. And I said, you sit there and you watch the whole of Belfast parading away there, and watch all your bonfires, and I'll get your medicines ready and your cup of tea and bring them over to you. And she was the happiest person. You would have thought I handed her £1 million. And later that night she says, I have never seen as many parades and as many bonfires in my entire life. Now I don't know a big lot about parades or bonfires, but I knew that it made her very, very happy, and I knew that was my job to do that and to meet those needs. So it's all those wee things, isn't it? And I think we are good at that, but we're not good about talking about it. Sure, we're not. Excellent. So, yeah, just wee things like that. My mommy and daddy love cards, so if I was to put any of them in a nursing home, I would love to see some of you sitting playing cards with them. All those wee tiny things. Okay, so your disengagement theory then we did talk about. So older adults withdraw from participation in activities. Elders engage emotionally with others and from events. Decreased interaction and withdrawal from society. So we've all seen that. So aging is an inevitable mutual withdrawal or disengagement, resulting in decreased interaction between the aging person and others in social system he or she is belongs to. It's beneficial for both the aging individual and society that such disengagement takes place in order to minimize the social disruption caused at an aging person's eventual death. Okay, so we touched on this before slightly. We actually did discuss it before, so I'm not going into big detail on it now. But really, this theory suggests that this is the shutting down period where people are starting to think, right, I'm going to die at some stage. I'm going to start to disengage in social activities, and therefore my social disruption, i.e., if I die, it'll not cause too much heartache to everybody. Okay, so we've discussed that. I don't know, I think we should try to prevent people doing this as much as we can. Older people decrease their activity levels, seek more passive roles, interact less frequently with others, and become increasingly preoccupied with their inner lives. So they become more sort of self-absorbed. So disengagement is viewed as adaptive behaviour. So it's adapting that behaviour of trying to stay away from things. So what are the positives then about this disengagement theory? People can become more reflective about their lives. So we're all picturing somebody here sitting on an armchair beside the fire, with nobody around them and trying to disengage. What are they doing? They're reflecting on their lives. They're thinking about everything they've done. People can become less constrained by social roles. So they are disengaged by this social expectation of taking on roles, such as looking after your grandchildren. So it's trying to move away from that. This disengagement theory is trying to say that we are trying to get away from all of those normal things. People become more disconcerting about relationships, which can help them adjust to increasingly frequency of serious illness and death among their peers. So it's that notion of, well, sure, I'll fall out with everybody anyway. I'll keep away from everybody. And then if anybody gets sick or dies, it'll not really impact me because I'm not that close to them anyway. So it's really, this disengagement theory is really trying to suggest that people are starting to unrelate to their lives and disengage from it and stay away. So what are the negatives associated then? It supports ageism, this attitude towards older people that we have. Would we agree? There's less support for physical and social adaptations. It doesn't consider variations in personalities. So this theory itself is very generalized. It doesn't look at individual personalities. In other words, person-centered care. And it doesn't consider changing definitions of aging. So what about the continuity theory then? Older adults attempt to continue with important activities. They perceive activities as continuous. Successful aging is characterized by how much continuing the person has with their activities. So making sure that they continue with their activities and still engage with society. So what are the conditions and challenges associated with aging? So we can all relate to these. You've seen them, you've heard about them, you've experienced them, you've worked with people with all these conditions. arthritis, osteoporosis, falls in older people, Parkinson's, cardiovascular disease, cerebrovascular disease, or stroke. And I'm sure there's loads of others. How do the symptoms relate to the condition, and how do they affect us from staying engaged, staying active in our lives? So life stages. Stages of aging. The experience of aging within different generations can have similarities as well as differences. How do you plan activities to encourage engagement? Can anybody give us any examples of what's going on out there at the minute in relation to encouraging engagement? Now, that could be within your own practice, or it could be within personal circumstances that you're experiencing in your own lives.
Yeah, so in our care homes, so I work for 16 care homes. I do other training. I put out a Christmas display competition for all of our homes. And one of the prerequisites was that it had to have staff involved, residents involved, relatives, and community. And I had to see picture evidence of that as well. So initially I was going, I don't know if this is going to work, but the results we had were unbelievable. Everybody got involved. I've got 16 homes that had amazing displays, from singing to creative arts. 4 of the homes continued with the kind of work, and they now have P3 or P6 classes going into the home every month with the residents. We've now got a post box in some of the homes where it's the kindness post box. So we've got kids and stuff and relatives leaving random things in the post box for residents that don't belong to them.
Oh,
so
what part of the country are you in? I want to know the nursing home, but
I work for Anne's Care, so I look after the 16 of their care homes across the country.
Okay.
So it's mental health, learning disability, and older people. So my next competition is going to be in April, and it's going to be the Anne's Care Homes Choir of the Year.
Oh, I love it! Brilliant.
Just that little competition really has helped everybody engage, because everybody got involved.
Excellent. This is me too. Yeah, a couple of people here coming in. Social prescribing. Oh, that's a good one as well. Tell me this. So, was that Carrie speaking? No, who was that?
No, it was
Jessie. Jessie, you know who would really greatly benefit you working with them? The charity called Linking Generations. Have you ever heard of them?
I have, yeah.
Well, look them up. There's a lady in that, and she's very, very good, and she's really instrumental at helping you with activities and stuff, because I've actually worked with her before. So I did something quite similar. I used to work in the tech in Downpatrick in the college there, and we had I taught the A-level health and social care, and we came up with a problem. So we looked at social isolation actually and loneliness in our community, and what the students suggested we do was start up a day centre. So we opened a day centre in the tech, and it was run by the students, and it was absolutely brilliant. The people from the community came in, older people, and we made scones and tea and did little activities with them every Tuesday, I think it was, Tuesday morning. We also linked generations, like the schools, the primary schools came in and sang to them and did little activities with them. It was brilliant. But why I'm telling you this is, yes, we also did. So during COVID then, so then the next thing COVID hit and we had to stop the actual wee group. But there was people who went to that group and hadn't been out of the house in years because of maybe a husband dying or something like that. And there was actually a lady that came in and she phoned me. I remember her phoning me. And she was terrified. She was actually, you could hear her voice quivering on the phone. She says, I don't know why I'm phoning you, because I'll probably never go. But that lady did come to our day centre, and it was first she'd been out of the house in about 4 years since her husband died. And she made loads of friends within that wee group. And it was really, really brilliant. But that Lincoln Generations really helped us. So
similar before, I started a dementia cafe in Samefield.
Brilliant. Yeah.
It was about 6 years ago now. So, and it did go down really well. And
Excellent.
people come for advice, but like I had singers and stuff coming in, and even simple things like that. Just being able to sit in a coffee shop and have a cup of coffee without worrying about behaviours made a huge difference.
Brilliant. Love it. Okay, so a few other ones coming in here. I actually attended a feeling this morning for a resident. Oh dear, sorry about that. Everyone nursing home, respecting and honouring her life. Oh, that's lovely. We have cinema days and put old movies on. Excellent, love that. Treats and popcorn, good. That's me too. And social prescribing, very good. Excellent. For Christmas, for Chinese New Year, Rosemary threw a party with various Chinese foods. Wow, love it. Yeah, there's loads of things. Excellent. We have a takeaway night once a week. That's good. That's a lot. That's hard work. To implement, is it? I don't know who wrote that. Okay, so we'll go through. We'll keep going because I'm aware of time. I've been talking for a while. So understanding the meaning of the quality of life and what it means to your older people. Listen to the past lives of older people as individuals. How important is that? I mean, even walking into a room and seeing their photos, and we as nurses in care settings are getting better at that. Linking the past to the future, so bringing in maybe photos of the past, and as you say, their old films, and bringing that reality back to life. Provide a balanced range of occupational opportunities for older people that have a meaning for them personally rather than based on the stereotypical belief. Yeah, so you can't always assume that everybody likes older films, or you can't assume that everybody likes singing on a Sunday. You have to relate it to the person themselves and what's going to be important and beneficial to their development. Be aware of the aging process and the changes that accompany it. Take this into account when planning activities. So in times of bereavement, loss or change, it is important to discover the individual motivation and values, hopes and aspirations, important relationships and life events, and significant spirituality and faith, which is really important. So it's all about how this bereavement is affecting the person that you're looking after, and how you're going to try to motivate the person to still have hopes and aspirations, and maybe pull in some other relationships that they have built within their lives, and try to get even the help of other people, whether that's family members. It's very difficult dealing with the death of a spouse when there's no other family connections, when they don't have maybe sons or daughters to help support them. So spiritual support can be offered by listening to life stories, life reflections, and recall of life events. So it's not always about the Bible or the gods or the churches. It's not always about that. Spiritual support is about embracing your thought process, isn't it? And trying to encourage what helps you to reflect on your life. So listening to life stories, life reflections, and recalling life events is so important in getting people to really share with you and appreciate what they've gone through. Reconnecting people with faith to worship opportunities from their faith backgrounds. You do see people maybe when they're older, maybe going back and reconnecting with their birth faith maybe. So that's something that we need to be aware of as well. Encourage the use of retained abilities and foster interest. So looking at their current abilities, looking at what they used to like to do, and try to bring that and enable it and encourage it. Have a good knowledge of the individual's biographics, and develop friendships and relationships with other residents, staff and visitors. We all do it. If there's two members maybe of your residents that are quite compos mentis, and are still quite active, you try to put them or seat them together, don't you? Stages of aging. So it's very important to help brain activity. New learning experiences help prevent cognitive decline, and many other people are keen to engage in activities which keep the brain active. I keep Mummy going all the time. She does her crosswords every day, and I would come in and say to her, "Oh, are you doing your dementia exercises again?" But it does, I think it does work. I do think it helps her brain, and it keeps her active. So the principles that underline success are a supportive environment, I think, or atmosphere, environment, same thing. So we as care workers and care professionals need to be supported in our own role as well. We need to be supported by management, and I think that's the biggest difficulty that we face, especially in nursing homes, in that, you know, often private nursing homes are very much profit orientated, saving money, and it's very hard to get away from that. You know, we always will have this stigma, and even in hospitals and care settings, where if you're sitting talking to a resident or a patient, you're being lazy, you're not doing your work. And we need to get away from that stereotypical management approach. So to any managers in the room, be supportive of your staff and allow them to sit with their residents and paint their nails. Emphasize what the person can still do to use their own abilities. Pitch the pace to the individual ability. Socially and culturally relevant to that person. Provide positive feedback. A range of flexible resources. Acquiring new knowledge is the least important benefit of learning. And time spent listening to what older people want to engage in is a necessary part of building a trusting relationship. I think we can all agree with that. So, just a wee second to read this statement then. So the World Health Organization. So, talk to me about this one. What do you think? What do you think health is? What's your definition of health? What is it to be healthy?
To feel physically and mentally well within yourself.
Mm-hmm. Anything else?
There is quality of life.
Brilliant. Yep.
And the absence of sickness as well.
Good. Yep. Excellent. Couple others? Can go a bit deeper in the quality of life bit. What is quality of life? What do you mean by that? Why? How can that be measured? What is it?
It's measured to your own self, how you feel if you have a quality of life.
Mm-hmm. And what could that take?
Everybody's quality of life is different, and what's important to them.
Perfect. Yep. Okay, so the World Health Organization defines health as a state of physical, mental, and social well-being, and is not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. So that's, in a nutshell, that's what we've all said there. You know, we need to be physically fit, we need to be mentally well, and we need to be socially well to be able to consider ourselves to be, you know, active in society or have that quality of life that we want. Okay, so it's all about this holistic approach, isn't it? It's this holistic approach to assessment that we do, and a holistic approach to well-being and putting in place the care. So well-being is about the balance between positive and negative emotion. It is influenced by the degree to which an individual is involved in the environment around them, social contact, and active interest in the world. That's a big statement, but I think if you're looking at all your residents and your patients that you're looking after, you can kind of relate to that. You can see how important it is for that person to be involved in the environment that they're in and have an active interest in their world. They'll only be interested in their world if their world is built in a way that's going to be meaningful for them. So promoting a wide range of meaningful learning and leisure opportunities enhances well-being and abilities, therefore improving health. Understanding the new culture of therapeutic activity to promote health and well-being. So over the last 10 years, the culture around providing activities for older people has developed considerably, particularly with the increasing challenge of dementia at its different stages. The evidence suggests that we need to move our understanding forward to meet these challenges. I've got a little video to share with you.
All right. So did you put your things in the dishwasher?
Having had things done for me in hospital, I did wonder how I was going to get coping with meals or just making pot of tea.
Margaret, who's 85, came out of hospital 6 weeks ago after suffering a slight stroke.
Really, my legs weren't at all my legs, but they were.
The retired physiotherapist lives in the London Borough of Sutton and was referred to the START programme, pioneered by the local authority.
START stands for Short-Term Assessment and Reablement Team, and that's exactly what we are. We provide a service up to 6 weeks or more, depending on the individual, for people who are coming out of hospital or to prevent them going into hospital following injury or illness, or people that have got long-term disabilities in the community that have decreased mobility and struggling to cope.
It's not the same as rehabilitation. It's not that you can necessarily get better with the condition that you have, but there's some real dignity and respect issues that come through reablement.
At some levels, reablement is a philosophy. It's about not trying to do things for people, but helping people to do things themselves. And there's an argument perhaps that in the past, home care services, for example, tend to come in, they tend to do things for people. They get them dressed, they prepare food for them. And it meets their immediate needs, but that's different from reablement, where reablement is there to help people to regain those life skills. So that is, I would say, the key distinction between a reablement home care service and a conventional home care service.
Can you open that? I see you open it. Sometimes they're a bit stiff, aren't they?
Sometimes, most not.
Reablement in Sutton is seen as an opportunity to assess a person's social care needs and also as an effective way of preventing injury or deterioration in a medical or physical condition. When Margaret was referred to START, carers were told she needed help with personal care and with taking her medication. She was assessed by Lynn Locke.
I first came to Margaret when she just came out of hospital, and I needed to assess her needs for equipment and how many calls that she needed. It may have needed an extra call being put in at lunchtime because she wasn't able to do her meals at lunchtime. And now she's really coping very well. And the way we got to that stage was we verbally encouraged her to do her own personal care and gave her that encouragement that she was lacking when she was in hospital, thinking that she wasn't going to be able to come home and do all this. Keep dropping these sticks.
Yes, that's why this to show you so you can't drop the trolley.
All right.
Key features of an effective reablement scheme are the provision of specialist equipment and the requirement that assessments are done in a person's home environment.
It's a help to have something like the trolley to move.
Exactly, yeah. And you've got your bath master, haven't you? And your perching stool that you can sit on and now wash independently. And
amazing. Don't have to think now, what am I to do?
yeah, you just get on there and you just get. She's a very different person now, full of more life, not down in the dumps like when I first saw Margaret. And she seems to be wanting her life back to how she was before.
To me, it's essential to have my own home. That's the great thing. To be able to be independent when you have always been.
Yeah, yeah.
It's expected that Margaret's condition will improve to a point where she requires few, if any, commissioned care hours after reablement. This outcome isn't unusual.
From an outcome perspective, we know that 30% of the people coming through the service don't require any ongoing care at all. So their hours are cut off at the end of the 6 weeks. And then another 30% have ongoing care. So we've developed a support plan with the person to meet their ongoing needs. And it's something like 42% of that ongoing care is on a reduced level to what it was in the beginning.
Can't say I could stand on my head or my heels, but I mean, it is such a help to feel independent.
Good.
And get about.
Good.
Sutton's reablement scheme is known as an intake model. In other words, it's inclusive and anyone in need of social care will be assessed.
For us, reablement isn't just about, moving everybody out the system and being self-supporting and only focusing on people that have had a fracture or a break and are potentially going to get better. It's about everybody. Everybody has some degree of reablement potential.
Up we go. Hold on to there.
Sutton's START service means that some people get support who wouldn't qualify under a different type of reablement scheme. People like Rob and Anne.
What they do, they come and get her up in the morning, take her to the bathroom, toilet her, wash her, dress her, and bring her down here, and then I give her a breakfast. And in the evening, they come along and they do the reverse. In themselves, they might sound like two very simple tasks, which they probably are. But when it's on top of everything else that you're doing during the day, they sometimes become like a major obstacle.
Well done.
Rob's wife, Anne, has dementia. For several years, he's cared for her without any social care support.
Anne, would you like to brush your hair?
But the responsibility has worn him down.
I'm normally a pretty happy-go-lucky chap. And as this thing has progressed, I found, and this is a dreadful thing to say, I was beginning to resent what I was having to do.
Yeah? Yeah. Come on then. Show me how you brush your hair. How do you have it, down or back?
I have said to my closest friends, you must notice that I'm being really miserable at the moment. And that's not like me.
Go back.
2 weeks into reablement, Rob has realised that he was doing too much for Anne.
That's it then. Brush your hair.
What the carers have been doing, they get her to do some of the things because they've probably got a little bit more time and a little bit more patience than I've been showing. But they have certainly helped her to try and do some of the things for herself. What? Yeah. Yeah. Go in there.
With this intervention, the need for Anne to go into residential care may be delayed, and the decline in Rob's mental health is being reversed.
I can honestly say, after the first 24 hours, I felt totally different because I hadn't had to do those 2 jobs that day. Now that they've been coming to us for a fortnight, people have said to me, you're back to your normal self. Okay? Want to carry on walking? Okay, come on in.
Sutton's experience of reablement echoes the findings of a national report which compared this type of scheme with more conventional services.
What we found was that people using reablement had better outcomes. So reablement was no more expensive, but produced better outcomes, and on that basis, we found that it was a cost-effective, or it had very high chance of being cost-effective.
Sutton Council has evaluated its START scheme to identify cost benefits and personal outcomes. Results show that reablement has proved to be good value for money.
In total, for that first 2 years operation, the cumulative savings should be £2 million. In terms of people, 400 additional people have been diverted out of the social care system altogether, so they've achieved full independence compared to the proportion that we would have expected from our control group. So it's a real significant difference for people.
In November last year, the government announced that it's making £1 billion available to local authorities to set up reablement schemes. It believes that such projects provide positive outcomes for people as well as saving money in the long term.
Hey guys, let me just see how to close this down. Okay, so that's where we're moving on to now, this theory about re-enablement. So hopefully will not take too much longer, okay? You're bearing with me, okay? All right, so that was did you find that interesting? I think sometimes it's very easy to do things for people, isn't it? There's a hand up. Go ahead, Carly. Sorry, Carla, were you wanting to chat? Maybe doesn't realise their hand up. You're on mute. She can't hear me. All right, folks. So yes, this notion of re-enablement. So it's more about as we discussed already, it's about readjusting to the stage of life that you're experiencing. So learning new skills, learning old skills maybe. And you know that if any of you are working with dementia, those skills aren't always just automatic. Sure, they're not anymore. They forget how to do things, and it is important to bring that re-enablement back in. Activities are essential in the care of older people. Activity is more a matter of reablement and improvement of function, feeling better and maintaining this level that they're experiencing. Some activity can be counterproductive and abusive if not therapeutic. Activities should be selected and planned by the individual where possible. They should not be made to participate if they do not want to. So we've discussed that already. Activities are an integral part of care and not an expensive option. Withholding activities may be negligent. Person-centered activities, not necessarily all group-based. So it's important maybe to individualize and to take one-to-one activities as well. Activity coordinators need to have a good people and communication skills to develop relationships. Activity provision needs to happen at intervals around a 24-hour clock, not just when a certain member of staff is on duty. That's important for our managers to understand as well, folks, if there's anyone on the call who's maybe recruiting activity coordinators, it's important to allow them a varied time scale for their working day, you know, so that they are there for evenings when people are more active, or when they need distracted. It's important to work with what your activities are yourself within your place of work. People only at the end stages of dementia cannot engage in any activities. People in later stages can still stir a cake mix or enjoy a hand massage. I always loved coming into the nursing home and seeing them all out with their hands, hand creams and nail varnish and all those type of things. No activity in itself is inherently age inappropriate. Activities need to be based on observation of what people engage in individually in order to determine the stage. The quality of life in a care setting is closely linked to physical and psychological health. The physical environment, the quality of social relationships, and the level of independence experienced within it. The amount of choice and control felt by any individual contributes to their sense of well-being. Reasons why individuals may not participate freely in activities. They may not be physically or mentally well enough to do so. They may not like group activities, and that's fine, and being part of a group of people they don't know. Yeah, I think I'd be a bit odd too. They may lack confidence about their abilities for that particular activity, and they may not like the activity, or they may think it's too simple or too complex. So if something's too simple or too easy, or it's too childish, maybe it may not be appropriate for them. They may think that they will not be able to understand or to use the equipment that you're using. So it's very important to gauge it in a way that's suitable for them. It may not be the right time of the day for them. So again, it's important to be able to adjust and have these activities at other times. So encouraging participation, so know what interest the individual has and the choice of activity that you pick. Make sure they are well informed, structure the activity to ensure participation, build confidence, make sure staff are informed, invite staff to participate. Isn't it lovely seeing all the staff participating in activities? Offer a taster session for people to see if they like it or not, and you'll have that opt-out option. And make sure there's no pressure on the individual to stay within that activity. Give praise and feedback to those who attend. The benefits, as we all know, empowerment, enhanced social integration and acceptance, acceptable touching, unconnected with dependence, formation of new friendships, widening the social networks, development of new roles, and promotion of a more positive and active image of older people. The benefits, the physical benefits include muscle strengthening. You all know these benefits. You know, blood flow, bone density, muscle toning, all of those things. Increased respiratory flow, increased blood circulation. So what are the benefits? The physical benefits include the potential for skin breakdown decreases. So getting them up moving, walking around, that will increase the risk and incidence of pressure sores, improving balance. You've got lots of things there. Psychological benefits then, smiling, laughing and talking increases, social interaction improves, increased alertness. I'll not go through them all, you can read them in your own time. Daily living function is improved, reduced feeling of loneliness and isolation. There's just some key points that you can talk around. So how do we assess the person? It's very important to gather all the information you need so that the activity is pitched at their level. Look at their preferred name. That's a really important thing in nursing, isn't it? That's kind of drilled into us from the very beginning. Always speak to somebody with their preferred name. Look at the medical condition and the health status of the person. That's also important, so that you know their boundaries and not to, you know, cause them any harm. Physical abilities, mobility, and transfers or balance, communication requirements, personality, their cognitive ability then as well, how they think, how they learn, and how they tick. So your risk analysis is also very important. You know, we as nurses need to consider the risk versus the benefit. Is this activity worth the risk? Has it got the potential to cause more harm than it has good? We also need to consider health and safety, deprivation of liberty, a big thing at the moment, and rightly so, the mental capacity and their ability to take risks. Is it going to be worth it? Okay, so we've run out of time to do this little activity, but what I want you to go away thinking about today is, you know, just have in your mind an activity that will help benefit your clients. So go off and implement this into your practice. Think about something that is considering a holistic approach towards your clients, or even one or a group of individuals that could benefit from this. Focusing on their physical, cognitive, emotional, social, and spiritual well-being. And even in the next class, have we chat about what sort of activities you've put in place, or anything that you can help benefit other people maybe, and share best practice within your own wee group. Anything to add, guys? Anything you wanna discuss? I flew through those last few slides, but is there any feedback you want to give me before we cut off?
In Rosemount, we had went to a palliative care course up in Belfast.
Brilliant.
And what was sort of took back from it was they had like a wee religious box and a few wee different things in. So we implemented and set up a few religious boxes of our own with, do you know, wee religious flowers and things that you would get given in the street.
Oh, very good. Yeah.
Put those in it, and different wee quotes that from the Bibles and things that they could read. A few wee knitted hearts, and a few wee holding crosses and things. And they were nearly like one of our wee ladies with dementia, and she nearly uses it like a wee rumble box, and you see her saying her prayers, but she didn't have any beads, so we have wee beads and things in that wee box, and
Very
she
good.
rumbles away through that, and it gives her a lot of comfort.
Excellent. Really, really nice example. Yeah. And what is it? That's sharing best practice. That's brilliant. Absolutely. That's what you took from that conference. Excellent. Love it. Any other good work you're doing out there? Shout out now, guys. This hopefully has just got the thoughtful juices flowing for the likes of your assignments and things like that. I know you've to do an assignment here, but it sometimes reminds us, just whenever we're going out back into practice, the importance and what all this theory actually does to a person's life. And that's what I hope to have achieved today. It's just to give you that wee reminder of the brilliant work that you're all doing and how it actually enhances and supports the people that we're looking after. And that's what we all signed up to do. And that's what's in our hearts, really, and our personalities at the end of the day. Isn't it? Folks, thank you so much for joining me and bearing with me. I know I do rattle on sometimes, but I really appreciated the feedback from the group, and sharing your experience is brilliant. I love hearing all those little stories about the brilliant work that's going on out there. And yeah, keep up the good work. Good luck with your course. I'm not sure if I've got another session with you, but hopefully I'll see you all again. And if not, yeah, good luck with everything, and enjoy what else Gary has put on for you. So best wishes and enjoy your evening.
Thank you, Rosie.
Okay, folks, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye.